Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. It's House Sparks, Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. I am House Sparks, and I will be House Sparksing the rest of the House Sparks and fucking night, baby. Um, we said goodbye to our dear friend Val Kilmer today, so I will be dusting off the old I Love Toxic Waste shirts for the near future, which I wore while doing stand-up as a totem over the last couple of years. Like maybe 2 years ago, I was wearing them all the time for all these things as a reminder that it's okay to be smart and funny. So I feel okay. You know those people where how people are always talking about representation in film, and you want to be seen, and I want somebody up there that looks like me. I got to tell you, other than the generically white, a couple of people, I suppose if you include Stallone, Seagal, Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm technically the same melanin level that they are, but there was no one-to-one in representation. Secondly, my biggest heroes in a lot of cases were Kiss, and they were wearing makeup, and Steve Martin, who was far too pretty to be a stand-up and got more ass than a toilet seat in the 70s because he basically was pretending to be, a snazzy ladies man when he actually was a snazzy ladies man. And then, of course, Bruce Lee. And I got to tell you, I, like a lot of other kids in my generation, did look up there and go, finally, when you saw Bruce Lee, you're like, finally, someone who looks like me, so I can envision reaching that level. Like it didn't matter. You just kind of looked for traits in people that reflected you, not like, oh, finally, one of my own race. Like it's a little awkward, right? Otherwise, every kid who watched like Chinese kung fu movies, you're like, well, just go watch The Last Dragon, and you'll see how like racially insensitive and curious the fixation is on that. Steve Martin was a ladies' man. You're kidding me? Really? You don't know Gwen? Dear God, woman, do you have any idea the type? Hold on. Uh, picture. Da-da-da. There's a picture of Steve Martin with a beard. Hold on. Yeah. Let me let me show you something real quick. Let's see. Let me open this. Open image in new window. Yes. Oh, there we go. Open this. Let me show you something. Let me just explain something to you about the fucking 70s, people. This is Steve Martin in the 70s. This is Steve Martin when he was pre-white hair Steve Martin. Let me explain something to you. Like, and there was no like part of me when I was a little kid in Kentucky going, oh, I'm gonna look like him when I grow up. And I kind of look like him. Like I could play his son in something very easily. Just saying. So, but even then I was like, he's whatever, 6 foot something, and I'm 5'9", buck 65, fully clothed, soaking wet, right? And so I never really had representation fever because I'd kind of written it off. Like I was never gonna be, you know, Bruce Lee or Muhammad Ali or again, and certainly, even as we've gone on, like I'm a huge Captain America fan, but I don't look like Chris Evans. I'm not going to look at Chris Evans and go like, finally, it's like looking in a mirror. Like, you know what I mean? You look at the the traits in these human beings that you find reflective, right? That's what true representation is. And that was no more true, I would say, than Val Kilmer when I saw him in Real Genius. Um, hold on, let me see if I can. Um, because there was just, quite frankly, like nothing. I didn't share anything, any like looks with him. As a matter of fact, I looked probably more like Mitch than I did Val Kilmer. But that's who you resonate with. You're like, that's what you want to be like, right? It was never Iceman for me. It was barely Doc Holliday. I mean, I appreciated his character acting in it. It was masterful. but holy shit. We offered a job from a lady on a motorcycle. I refuse to answer on the grounds that it may incriminate me, Miles. I don't look like Val Kilmer. I was never going to look like Val Kilmer. He's blonde and blue-eyed and all that stuff. The point is like I didn't have the ability to go, oh, he's reflective of me. And the generically just being kind of tonally the same pigment isn't a thing. So, you know, again, your heroes are your heroes wherever you find them. And Real Genius, and again, Martha Coolidge directed the film, a female director. When everybody's like, why aren't the lady directors getting more credit? And like, name one. And they're like, I can't. It's terrible. Well, first of all, try harder. Secondly, if they are directing shit, go watch the shit they actually directed. And don't get me started on, you know, female forward movies and they've never seen Alien. So, and by the way, I'm not. This isn't about a categorization of looks or whatever. I'm very comfortable with how adorable I am. And Val had his look, but it wasn't because it reflected one-to-one, right? The Saint, I love The Saint, absolutely. I would argue that his Spanish millionaire traveler Martin de Porres character, your English with your chips, your fish and chips. On the plane, I had the chicken. It's so funny and so subtle and so fantastic. This is not Mel Torme, right? And obviously Top Secret, and I mean, just a lot of great work. And fuck Oliver Stone. And don't get me started on that piece of shit who will whip his dick out in front of the fucking cast and women he's talking to women about getting him lunch or whatever with his fucking dick out, like on set, pissing in the fucking, like, just 8 feet away from his director's chair. Fuck Oliver Stone. Hack thief. There, I said it. So, yes, Heat, Willow, oh my fucking God, in Heat. So good. So good in Heat. You had no idea Oliver Stone was gross? Yeah. Yeah, Oliver Stone, who wanted to do a documentary puffing up Putin after the fucking attack? Yeah, that guy. Fuck him. Knowing it was coming. Knowing the attack on Ukraine was coming. Post 2014, knew the next one was coming and wanted to do a puff piece on him like he's just misunderstood. Fuck Oliver Stone and his bullshit. No, 100 times no. Anyways, other than that, I have no opinion. But Val Kilmer, loved him. And there was one, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, the problematic actor. The story of Val Kilmer as the problem child on an acting set, that he became difficult and hard to work with, and he was like the star power thing of I'm not coming out of the trailer until my co-star comes out of the trailer. And when did that happen? When did Val Kilmer do this? When did he get this terrible reputation? Okay. Think it's that. Yeah. I'll tell you when. When he was working with another asshole who was a real piece of work. Marlon fucking Brando. Who just, I mean, just like he pulled the same shit he pulled on not Heart of Darkness, on Apocalypse Now, you know, where he shows up late. His contract says they have to shoot him out by the time he's done, and he's just making up fucking dialogue because he won't memorize anything and all this kind of shit. And you're trapped on a fucking island with this prick. Just fucking, you want to talk about privilege? Somebody skating on just happening to be on the right street corner when the transition from representational acting to interpretive acting or emotive acting, that when that shit that shift that shitty shift, that shift happens in film, He just happens to be in the class at the time and ends up getting, credit for what a lot of other people are doing, including James Dean and others. And on a much subtler sense, this is same thing like young Dustin Hoffman's coming up, Redford, all these guys, they're coming through this thing, but he ends up being this kind of emotive, force because it's loud compared to what we've seen before. And instead of recognizing that, he just became Brando was a terrific actor up to a point. And I would like to say that The Freshman, the movie he did with Matthew Broderick, I love that movie. I enjoy that movie through and through. But Brando was not a genius. Brando, especially later in his life, floated on the work he had done early. Right? He didn't evolve into something better. He didn't become a better his acting grew only with his girth. And when he got to this level, he was literally like the whole goal was to tear down the Hollywood system or something from within at the expense of everybody else working on the movie. If you want to tear down, if you're that talented and you want to tear down the system from within, stop acting. Stop walking around naked with a fucking muumuu, with your dick hanging out in front of everyone, on set, and being gross and being late and all. Like, you're wasting everybody's time. Give the role to somebody else. Don't do it. All right. What was his everyday wear? Basically this. No, this is from The Island of Dr. Moreau, and it was like one of the actors that was in it. It was like his big break, and he almost never worked again. Like he won't like he definitely did other stuff, but it was like his one starring role breakout, and then he ended up doing mostly character roles from that point on, and it was like fucking traumatic after that. And the reason Val Kilmer got a bad reputation for not wanting to come to set before, there was this like he was jockeying with Brando to see who could go to set first is because if he went out there and waited for this asshole to come out, he'd never come out. He just waited because you always ended up waiting for Brando to show up and for hours. They turned into the Baron from Dune. That's exactly right. It's a wild movie because they like the documentaries on the making of it are through the fucking roof. They're amazing. Yes, 1951, Streetcar Named Desire, absolutely great work, especially compared to the representative acting beforehand and the transition into realistic sort of New York raw stage acting. Again, a transition that was happening in acting as film had transitioned over years from silent to sound to color, all that kind of stuff. That arc was creating new performers and new performances. It was a matter of timing. That said, if Val Kilmer went out there and waited in the island fucking heat like everybody else, he'd have fucking heat stroke waiting on his mark for this dickhead to come out of his dressing room. And did Marlon Brando get the bad rep after that? Other than being like, wow, he must be a genius. No, Val Kilmer did. And Val Kilmer's wife divorced him, Joanne Wally Kilmer, while this movie was going on because he was away so much and they were separated and all that kind of stuff. I love The Salton Sea too. I also love the, Murder Me Again, I think it was called, the one he did with his wife. But she divorced him while this movie was going on, and he wanted to go home and deal with it because they weren't shooting anything. Because this motherfucker wouldn't come out of his trailer or his cabana. They had to build a fucking building for him on this island. Yeah. Val dressed like him, sitting in that thing and talking like Brando was so good. I know, because at a certain point, they were just like, this is fucking nuts. I have to sit around and wait for this dude. Said Marlon Brando or Mark Zuckerberg. It's really a coin toss. I love The Saint too. And I'm gonna miss Val Kilmer. And I have to tell you, I enjoyed the most recent Top Gun movie quite a bit. Love the movie. And I got to tell you, the scene with him and Tom Cruise broke my fucking heart. I wept in the theater when I saw it. I went out and saw the movie in the theater. Um, and that scene, yeah, Val Kilmer is dead at 65. And that scene where they're basically saying goodbye, was it was just it was so fucking emotionally shattering. He died late yesterday, I think. He is going to be, for those of you who don't know, Kurt Russell bought him a plot at the Boot Hill Cemetery, which is the famous OK Corral Cemetery, the graveyard in Tombstone, Arizona. It is a part of American history. I'm gonna get all teared up. Where Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday became Western legends. He will be buried. I mean, he bought him the plot. I honestly, I don't know if his family will interdict and he'll be buried someplace else. But the idea is that Kurt Russell bought him a plot. When you're not allowed to do that anymore, they're not burying any. The idea was they're not burying any new people there. But they made a special um, dispensation so that they could do it, and he will be buried in the Tombstone Cemetery. So if you're ever in Tombstone, Arizona, you can pay some respects to Val Kilmer. Um, and hold on.
I'm your huckleberry.
You can say that when you're walking around. Just the, and I would argue, I love Tombstone. I think everybody did a great job in that movie. I wouldn't take anything away from any of the performances, but Kilmer was the anchor. He was the anchor of that movie. His, the fact that he was dying the whole time, his weakness and strength paralleled was just so well done. And yeah, just really, it held the whole, it held the whole thing together, I think. So, anyways, on that note, I'm on a little bit early so we can pay a little bit of extra respect to Val today. But he will be, if things go as as planned or whatever, and I think it's been a while, like he's had this plot bought for him by Kurt, I think a while back, because he's been sick for a while. He'll be buried there. So by the way, I don't think Doc Holliday, the real Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp, are not buried there, but the men they killed are. The men that were that's the graveyard of the men that they fought, as well as the people in the area and the graveyard of the city. How you never know how it's going to hit you. Yep. So, anyways, you guys know.
I was thinking of the immortal words of Socrates, who said, I drank what?
The ability to be brilliant and silly. That movie, Real Genius, came along at just the right time for me.
Would you classify that as a launch problem or a design problem?
And and I think, yeah, I had the other one in there. It's in such a mess of like all the things I've had over the years of, maybe it's down here. Yeah, it disappeared from my soundboard. I have to dig it up again. Son of a bitch. Well, either way, I will find it. The dream where 1,000 naked women are screaming and throwing little pickles at you. Oh, wait, I found it.
Something strange happened to me this morning.
Was it a dream where you see yourself standing in sort of sun god robes on a pyramid with 1,000 naked women screaming and throwing little pickles at you?
No.
Why am I the only person that has that dream?
You're not, Val. I had that dream after seeing the movie, and it was fantastic. So, we're gonna miss him, and thank you guys for being here with me. It's Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide.